Log Horizon, Volume 1, Chapter 3, Part 6. There was an air of panic in the guildhall of Crescent Moon Alliance. The one leading the way was a young healer that gave the impression of a puppy. After ushering the trio into the guildmaster Maryelle's room, he turned and left in a hurry. Maryelle's room was even messier than their last visit, but she managed to squeeze out a place for her guests and prepare tea for them. Henrietta was still hard at work, tidying the office. It was close to midnight, but there was no sense of peace and quiet here. The youths were carrying items, and the members were accounting for weapons. The atmosphere felt uneasy. It was as if they were packing for a journey.
Sorry for the mess, Shiroe-sama. Hold it! What? Isn't this Akatsuki-chan?
Henrietta dropped her broom upon seeing Akatsuki and rushed over to hug her. Henrietta had a thing for cute little girls, and Akatsuki was just her type. She always acted like this ever since they met. Henrietta was of average height for females, so Akatsuki was shorter than her by half a head. Akatsuki looked like a black cat annoyed by her master's adoration when Henrietta hugged her.
Welcome back, everyone. It's a bit messy here. Hope you don't mind.
Maryelle glanced at Naotsugu and Akatsuki before winking at Shiroe. Shiroe breathed a sigh of relief at her mischievous demeanor. What happened, Mary?
Anyway, don't rush me. Sit. Let me serve you water. Water looks like tea.
The three sat in response to Maryelle's invitation. Shiroe and Naotsugu sat on the couch, while Akatsuki sat on a backless sofa as Henrietta was still embracing her from behind. Everyone was seated, but Maryelle still couldn't find the words to say. Shiroe waited quietly for a while before speaking out. Going on an expedition?
Yeah.
To where?
Should I say Ezo? Anyway, we're going to Susukino.
Susukino is one of the 5 major cities in Elder Tales, a zone under the management of the Japanese server. Under the Half-Gaia project, the position and shape of the path between Akiba and Susukino were similar, but the distance was half and the area was a quarter. The virtual Japan in Elder Tales, known as Yamato, was divided into 5 states. Real-world Hokkaido was the Ezo Empire, Shikoku was the Four-Land Dukedom, Kyushu was the Nine-Tails Dominion, Eastern Japan's main island was the League of Freedom Towns Eastal, and the western part was the Holy Empire Westland. There were tens of thousands of players living in Yamato that was the equivalent to real-world Japan. There were also numerous NPCs known as the People of the Land, living in many cities, towns, and countless villages. 5 of these cities were in a league of their own: Susukino, Shibuya, Akiba, Minami, and Nakasu. As places that could be chosen as starter cities, the commercial facilities were excellent, and the surrounding area was suitable for beginners, with low-level monsters. There were lots of simple quests, and there were cathedrals for players to respawn should they fall in battle. All of these advantages made these cities a good base of operation. The 5 cities were also connected by the intercity transport gate, so the players could move around with ease. That was before the disaster happened. The players were gradually referring to this incident as the catastrophe. Some called this the teleportation, summoning, or sliding into an alternate world. But as the actual situation remained unknown, catastrophe was the term that was most frequently used. Shiroe thought the term catastrophe sounded better than alternate world teleportation. If you used the word teleport or summon, it was almost like giving up on the possibility of going back. Shiroe had this concern as well. That's probably why most people chose the term catastrophe instead. Any news of the intercity transport gate getting repaired?
No one's repairing. We don't know if it's broken or not.
Maryelle became more cheerful after starting the conversation and explained the situation to Shiroe's group.
As I mentioned before, Crescent Moon Alliance is a small guild. We've gotten some new members recently, so our numbers are 24 with most of us here in this building. But we have a female member, Serara, currently in Susukino. She's a cute druid, level 19 beginner in Crescent Moon Alliance. This kind of personal data isn't important. She's a bit shy and weak in character, but wants to experience running a business and place Elder Tales to do that. She's a really unique person.
Maryelle gazed downwards as she spoke.
Serara was in Susukino the day the catastrophe happened. There was a group recruiting players around level 20 for a raid, so Serara decided to join them to train since the others in the guild were busy. She was playing around with a raid party in Susukino when the catastrophe happened. With the intercity transport gate down, Serara got stuck there. Henrietta added after Maryelle sighed deeply. Going over to bring her back? Maryelle and Henrietta nodded when Shiroe asked. I'm not sure, but has any player gone over to Susukino since the catastrophe?
Akatsuki asked on behalf of the group. Shiroe was also thinking about this. Without the intercity gate, there were only two other ways to travel: using the fairy rings scattered around the region to teleport to other places, or traveling on foot zone by zone. Fairy rings were a teleportation device located in the field zones, a magic circle formed by several boulders. You could teleport from one fairy ring to another, a teleportation network in the world of Elder Tales. The connections between fairy rings were affected by the lunar cycle using a complicated formula. If you were familiar with it, you could complete your journey in a very short time, but using it at the wrong time would teleport you to unknown places.
As far as I know, no one has attempted that. No one has the energy to spare as they go through each day, and they don't have the heart to care about other cities, which is understandable. Using fairy rings without consulting online guides is suicidal. If you want to travel by horse or on foot to Susukino, you need to prepare for a journey of 2 weeks, with several obstacles along the way. It's not a trip you can make out of simple curiosity.
Maryelle had analyzed the situation well. Before the catastrophe, players were free to roam around the Japanese server. Some stronger players even made expeditions to Korea or China. This was because of the intercity transport gate within the 5 major cities, and the fairy rings, together with online guides, provided them with a convenient and instant transportation tool. There was also no concept of camping outdoors when this was just a game. No matter how far you were going, you could just log out at a safe area, or use Call of Home to return to a city. Wait a minute. If you use Call of Home... I forgot the crucial point.
That's right. If a player enters a city with a cathedral, the checkpoint for Call of Home will be updated accordingly. If Sarada uses Call of Home, she will just warp to Susukino. She won't return here.
Call of Home was an instantaneous transport spell every player could use in Elder Tales, warping you to the last of the 5 major cities you had visited. The casting time was several minutes and could only be used once every 24 hours, so it was unsuitable for use during battles. For the game, it was normally used when the player decided to call it a day and return to the city before logging out. But the young girl would just return to Susukino after casting the spell, which was her current location, and the intercity transport gate was still not functioning. You wouldn't know the destination of the fairy rings without checking online guides, so it also could not be used.
Why are you mounting a rescue now?
Akatsuki had finally started on the main topic. Shiroe expected this to be the core question.
Because we were planning to bring her back. It's scary to be alone on the northern border, correct?
Henrietta wanted to speak, but something was holding her back, and her arms gripped Akatsuki stronger. Maryelle, who had interrupted her, seemed to be carefully choosing her words when explaining. Mary...
Don't look at people with your sharp eyes, Shiroe. You won't be popular with the ladies if you do that, alright?
Maryelle seemed to be changing the topic, so Shiroe asked her again.
Yeah, the security in Susukino seems to be worse than here. Forget it. It not seems like or appears to be. The security in Susukino is definitely bad. Sarada is being harassed by nasty guys.
In this girly room with pastel pink decor, her words sounded foreboding. The city was a non-combat zone. Offensive weapons and magic were prohibited. Confining or trapping another player was also banned. But not all crimes were against the law, and even such crimes could still be carried out. But there are some things that were nastier than PK for a low-level girl. Things that didn't exist in the programming of the game weren't restricted by the developers, but it might be possible to carry them out in this alternate world. Akatsuki's intimidating silence came from her correctly grasping the meaning behind harass.
It's not that bad yet, but Susukino has less than 2,000 players, so it's hard to hide in a city with such a low population, right? She's also a guild member, so we need to rescue her, correct? It's embarrassing, but I want to discuss something with you. We have many kids in our guild, right? They're all good kids, but not too reliable yet. We need to send our best players out or we won't make it to Ezo. So while we're away, could you help me look after the kids here?
You don't need to spend all your time here. We have a sorcerer, Isel, right? The tall boy with the blue hair? He will lead the rest of the children. Marie, battle team leader Shoryu, and myself will do all we can for this expedition. It is a willful request, and we are anxious about this too, but Shiroe-sama, Naotsugu-sama, Akatsuki-chan, can you take care of this guild for a short while? Maryelle and Henrietta lowered their heads, pleading for their assistance. Shiroe looked at the two ladies bowing before him. He held his breath. His mind became silent, but it was still noisy. He wanted to stop his blood from flowing if possible. His mind turned furiously. His focus called forth lightning from the darkness. In the real world, Tokyo and Sapporo were 850 kilometers apart, which was 425 kilometers under the Half-Gaia project in this world. Maryelle's party would be traveling by horse and foot. Some of the roads were still serviceable, but most of the zones consisted of uneven plains and hills. Under the best condition, they could move about 50 kilometers per day, but it would be a blessing if they managed even half of that every day. No, considering the fact that they would be facing monsters, getting 25 kilometers would be a challenge. If they moved 20 kilometers per day, they would reach Susukino in 21 days. A round trip would take a month and a half. Maryelle was too optimistic about this. His body temperature dropped about 3 degrees. The instincts that supported Shiroe came up with a view akin to a premonition. Maryelle's journey would fail. They prepared as well as they could. They were lacking a bit in levels, but they were taking on this challenge with the elites of the Crescent Moon Alliance. They would be forming a full party of 6 with an excellent healer coming along. But Shiroe felt that this was an issue beyond the dimension of levels. Shiroe was an introvert, and people said he overthought things. This usually meant delusional thoughts that went all over the place, regardless of boundaries. But Shiroe had a balance scale in his heart as a secret weapon. Shiroe would use this device to ruthlessly measure the strength of his allies. Shiroe considered the suggestions he could give to Maryelle. There were 12. He analyzed each of them. About half of them were useful. They could shorten the time needed or improve their chances. Using the eliminated ideas to think of new proposals, he came up with 4. He went through the plausibility of carrying them out. He struck off half and added in new elements to the remaining proposals and recalibrated them. The path of his thoughts was like a flash of light leading into the domains of subconsciousness. Shiroe could only feel his thoughts by following the path of light. But advice? Proposals? Did they want such things? No. Did he have the authority to push his ideas on them in the first place? He couldn't take on the responsibility. Did he have the right to hold such expectations? Calculation, practicability, authority, expectation. That's right. Expectation. What was he hoping for? What did he want to do? As his thoughts evolved slowly into words of this extent, Shiroe's consciousness returned to his body. He raised his gaze as if directed by something, and saw Naotsugu and Akatsuki nodding their heads in show of support.
Say it, Shido.
Your turn to speak, my lord.
If he would think about it another 5 seconds, Shiroe wouldn't be able to move. He would be lost in his thoughts and responsibilities, falling into the trap thinking it is arrogant to involve myself in the affairs of another guild. But the Shiroe in this moment was like a sailboat pushed forth by the wind of his companions, Naotsugu and Akatsuki. He said naturally, "We will go."
Huh?
The best option is for us to go.
We can't possibly trouble you to do that, Shirobo.
Shiroe decisively ignored Maryelle's objection as he turned to face his comrades.
Of course!
Leave it to us and my lord.
The 2 comrades answered with perfect timing. Naotsugu and Akatsuki stood up as if the debate was over.
We'll go on this expedition. Marie and everyone else will stay here. Asking us to take care of kids is impossible.
A shinobi does not know the word failure.
Maryelle sat on the couch stunned with her mouth open looking at Shiroe. Shiroe was unable to look straight at her. This was embarrassing. Shiroe regretted saying something so arrogant like the best option is for us to go. There should have been a better way to put it, right? Maryelle was definitely dumbstruck. Shiroe blushed deeply as he thought about it. She has this look that says, "What is this child saying? What am I doing? I'm acting like an arrogant fool." He was left only with the embarrassment of acting cool. Shiroe, who was seeing stars, suppressed his emotions and said with conviction, "We ride at dawn. Maryelle, Henrietta, leave this to us." To read along with Log Horizon or to read any other fine light novels, go to Baka-Tsuki.org. Baka-Tsuki.org. If you want to voice a character for audio light novel Log Horizon, contact me at youtubecontact22@yahoo.com. If you want to pay for your services, I can pay some money, just not a lot, and I am willing to negotiate a price. You can also volunteer if you wish. Again, just contact me at the specified email address. I'm also willing to reply to any constructive criticism, so if you have any ideas for audio light novel Log Horizon, please leave them in the comments. If you like audio light novel Log Horizon, please leave a like or a comment, as it really does motivate me to do these.